Career discovery is an unsolved business and social problem. If you push Michael Jordan to solve calculus and Albert Einstein to play basketball, it's just the world's going to be an unfair place. And I think that is why the roots of social injustice is because you're pushing people in the wrong direction and hoping that magic will happen. Just like you're creating a system with lots of lost Einsteins and Mandelas and Gandhis. Instead of really inspiring kids to search for their true north, you're pressurizing students, young professionals, even older ones to comply with norm. The traditional education system has taught us to believe that the goals of life are only a few. If you're not a high-profile banker or a techie or this or that, you've failed. And I think in the 21st century, where the passion economy and the side hustle revolution is taking place, I think careers and the entire education space is going to be redefined. And our community members are ambitious, but they don't compete with each other. They help each others become successful.
Let's take a breath. And as I say, it's quite casual. I mean, this whole thing is new. You're literally the second person
Awesome.
I've ever spoken to on this. And the aim really is just to have a chat, have a conversation. The kinds of conversations me and you had at that dinner at Jaren's place.
Yeah.
That wonderful place in King's Cross, Granary Square.
Place.
And I know we don't have much time, but I know that it can be a nice, short and sweet thing. As I say, this is about social justice. So School of Social Justice, the aim is to educate people and to hear from people who've changed the world or made a difference or took on a form of social injustice. You yourself, as somebody who not only was successful in your career at Microsoft, but then took a risk and had an idea about building what your organization is called Network Capital, and then writing a book and coming to London and starting a new life here. I mean, it would be great to know why the hell you do what you do, and what is it you do?
I'm thrilled to be here because this topic of social justice, economic justice, is something that matters to me. I started Network Capital with a very simple idea that every person on the planet has something to learn and something to teach. All we need to do is to build a community. So it was a passion project for me while I was at Microsoft. And then I decided that the purpose of my life seems to be to build a community that democratizes mentorship. I had created a base of about 100,000 ambitious young students, millennials and Gen Zs around the world.
That's huge.
Yeah, I thought that the education system is clearly broken, not just in one country, but in all countries. So we should have a community-based learning model where the best teachers from around the world come and share what they know and also learn from their peers. So today it's become one of the pioneering cohort-based learning platforms. We have 100,000 plus young professionals who all learn with and from each other. They come from different cultures, different political backgrounds, different ideologies. Some are believers of the market, some question it, and so forth. And when you bring diversity together under one platform and tell everybody that you can disagree with each other as long as you agree on the ground rules of how you would disagree, magic starts to happen. So,
can you give me examples of what kind of magic you've seen in bringing a diverse group of people together, not only in one place but internationally?
Yeah.
What are some things that have really inspired you as to what's come out of your community?
I feel that the way people have come forward to dispel the myth of competition is something that's really interesting. So, Alvin, I wrote this article for Harvard Business Review called How to Build Your Category of One. And on Network Capital, we are training our community members to play infinite games and instead of competing with each other, radically collaborate. Because I think the traditional education system has taught us to believe that the goals of life are only a few. If you're not a high-profile banker or a techie or this or that, you've failed. And I think in the 21st century, where the passion economy and the side hustle revolution is taking place, I think careers and the entire education space is going to be redefined. And our community members are ambitious, but they don't compete with each other. They help each others become successful. And there's a lot of research that proves, done by the likes of Adam Grant at Wharton, who explains that givers are often the most successful people in the world, because the more you help others succeed, the more you grow yourself. That's not why you should help, but there are also benefits to giving and sharing. And this is the culture that we've built on Network Capital, on the cloud. And I'm very happy to say that so far it seems to be the dominant strain.
That's wonderful to hear, particularly given everything that's happened over the last few months and couple of years, where disconnection has been so much of a dominant theme. To see these people in your community come together and support each other, and to, as you say, this form of karma, give and don't expect anything back, it's quite powerful. I mean, for you, I really want to get on this point that you mentioned about what success is. So, when I was going to university, I went to study history and politics, and I remember I got into this program. I applied to this program called Sponsors for Educational Opportunity, SEO London, and he got talented ethnic minority kids to go into the world of banking. So at the time, banking was the big thing, right? Because of course, just thinking about the salary. I mean, my parents were working class, came here. My mum as a chambermaid, cleaning hotels in Lake District. Dad was a waiter, and to see the salaries you can make in a year, let alone a month. As a banker was mind-blowing. So that was always seemed to be, in a particular cohort, the route out of that kind of life. And I remember in this program, it was very interesting because it taught you things like how to eat, how to talk, how to be in a room, what not to do, and all of these unspoken rules. And also it gave a sense that you were the best. It taught you that you were the elite. Unfortunately, 2 weeks after getting an internship at Merrill Lynch, though, 2008 financial crash happened and the SEO opportunity didn't happen. But ever since then, I've always questioned, imagine if there were similar programs where we teach our kids not only do you need to be a banker to be successful, and you talked about this at your book launch, actually. You can be, because you mentioned accountancy, and in your culture and your country where you're from, there are certain routes of which a successful lawyer and so forth.
Engineer, the traditional careers. I am one. I'm an engineer, liberal arts, MBA, Chevening Fellow, all those kinds of things. Yeah.
But then how do you, in your network, do you teach people, for example, instead of entrepreneur first, which teaches people to be entrepreneurs first, or teach first to be teachers first, is there anything there about, activism or making a difference or social justice? Have you seen any of those conversations happen about educating our people to make a difference on these big intractable problems?
I fundamentally believe that everyone has a superpower.
Okay.
And I also believe that everyone should not be a banker or an engineer or a lawyer. You can't decide what you want to do with your life based on how the market is only. That's why on Network Capital, one of our most popular fellowships is I Don't Know What I Want to Do with My Life Fellowship.
Is that what it's actually called?
It's actually called that. And it's the most popular fellowship. I don't know if you read my latest HBR piece, but
Tell me.
I write about this. Okay. Career discovery is an unsolved business and social problem. If you push Michael Jordan to solve calculus and Albert Einstein to play basketball, it's just the world's going to be an unfair place. And I think that is why the roots of social injustice is because you're pushing people in the wrong direction and hoping that magic will happen. You're designing institutions to take care of, just like you're creating a system with lots of lost Einsteins and Mandelas and Gandhis. Instead of really inspiring kids to search for their true north, you're pressurizing students, young professionals, even older ones to comply with norm. So I have a fundamental problem with conformity for the sake of it. So my mission is to help everyone discover their superpower and help them build their category of one. Because economic empowerment often precedes social empowerment.
Okay.
So I want people to basically build careers in whatever they choose to do. And I think that's something that you'll see a lot more in the 21st century with the passion economy becoming mainstreaming. Podcasting will become a career. YouTubing will become a career. Playing video games is already a financially lucrative career. But I think intersectionalities will be explored, education and gaming. And I won't say everyone will be able to hack it and become whatever they want to do, but at least there is hope. And I think that's what excites me.
That's a wonderful kind of vignette of the possibilities. I mean, like, for you, given that you've been on this work for so long and impacting so many people on a regular basis, what were the real insights into, you started it, and I'm sure there were so many challenges, because we've got the vision about where we want to go to, particularly people like ourselves and other entrepreneurs who want to build something from scratch. And then you're like, it's like the whole Tyson thing, Mike Tyson thing. You can plan and prepare for a fight as much as possible, but as soon as you get punched in the face, you gotta switch and adapt. Yeah. I mean, were there instances for you when you were trying to build this movement to address the problems of education or poor education? What problems came up?
Oh, lots of them. So as I mentioned earlier, that Network Capital used to be a passion project for a while. Okay. And the first version of it was, think of it like mentors across borders. So think of, a Russian mentoring an American, an Israeli mentoring somebody else from the Middle East, and vice versa, Indian mentoring Pakistani. So my vision was to basically build cultures and have students at least who are aligned, even though their countries disagree politically. So at that time, I thought I'll make sure that everyone in need is able to find a mentor.
Okay.
So that proved to be an operationally difficult thing to do. We achieved some success, but...
Why was it difficult?
Because making one-on-one relationships scale and actually comply, people coming on time, people being prepared, people knowing what to ask it's not something that can be scaled yet.
Got it.
So I had to pivot from making it a one-on-one mentorship platform to a many-to-many mentorship platform. And that is where the scale kicked in.
Okay.
So instead of matching people manually or using a bot, I said, this is the community, these are the norms, this is your playground, these are the rules, play.
Wonderful.
And that's how mentorship started coming. And the phase 3 is what you see now with networkcapital.tv, where we run cohort-based courses, things like I don't know what I want to do with my life fellowship, to product management, to investing. I think those who want to do investing or banking should absolutely do so. My younger brother is an investor. He's at BlackRock in Hong Kong today. But those who choose to be a painter, back in the day, we almost expected painters and artists to be poor and live a life of economic hardship, with the micro exception of one Picasso coming from somewhere. But today, with the new digital tools that are coming into picture, that is changing. And I know that there's a big debate about technology and the way it's applied. And I really believe that technology is not deterministic. It's a function of the choices we take. Sure. And it's a conversation that we need to have. I don't think all these tech platforms have figured everything out. I think I used to work for a big tech company. I think we're all figuring it out. And we have to play a role in shaping how these digital tools empower the artists, the poets, the quants,
the activists
to build their category of fun. Yeah. Activists are so important.
Why is that?
I was in Hong Kong to write one of the chapters of my book. And I wrote that chapter, which is what can startups learn from activists? Okay. So if you study activism in different parts of the world, in Serbia, for example, they use humor to make activism scale. So they realized that their dictator, like the person running the country at the time, was clearly a tyrant, and tyrants tend to not listen. But humor is actually a very interesting tool, which is not technically breaking the law, not upsetting the tyrant technically, but still conveying the point. So I looked at what was going on in Hong Kong and looked at what can those movements learn from other things that have been going on. And what can startups learn from them? Because being an activist is a hard job.
Very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of scope of cross-pollination that can be there. And we need to empower everybody. We need wonderful activists and we need wonderful techies so that this conversation becomes rich. I loved how intersectionalities play out. People who are different from each other, you learn most from them. And I think that's why we need the activists and the bankers and the techies to come together on one platform and agree on how to disagree.
That's I'm going to edit that because that was really good as an excerpt. I'm just aware of the time. So, because we need to be out of here in 8 minutes, but I do want to get a last bit because I also need to pack up. But I was asking Adrian, with certain podcasts, they always end on one last question, the same question every time. I'm trying to figure out what that is. The closest thing we have now is I asked Adrian, and he was like, he just told me his motto for life. I don't know if you have a motto, but if you had something which kind of encapsulates in a sentence or paragraph what you believe, what is your motto for life, or changing the world, or the thing that's driven you to create network capital and impact so many people's lives, what would that be, or what is it?
Don't be seduced by the illusion of hard work. Find the right problems to solve, find the right people to partner with, and build your category of one.
Wonderful. I feel like you've got a perfect, and that is the title also of your book. So for everyone who's listening, please do check out the book. I will put a link down for people to access. And I have a copy. I didn't bring it today. I should have brought it because I was still meaning to get it signed. But thanks for sharing that. I think we've got a couple more minutes, and I kind of want to touch upon this idea of the lessons you've maybe learned. So, in the mission of trying to mentor and educate people at scale, given the broken education systems that plague not only certain countries but around the world, what are lessons that you've learned in terms of how we best educate the next generation of leaders?
Yeah, I think we should be a lot more interested in questions than answers. So I'm writing an article right now. Why? What philosophy and what Aristotle specifically can teach startups? Okay. And I think one essential component of philosophy is that it enables you to ask good questions. And I think if children and young professionals and those who are sort of confused about where things are, which is all of us, right? If we really engage with some of the philosophical questions and think from first principles, not by analogy, I think life will make more sense. But because let's face it, we live in confusing times. Everything we believe in, the opposite of that is also true. I'm Indian, so in India you see that a lot more. But now I see it everywhere. We live in confusing times, and to make sense of this, you won't find all the answers on tech platforms. You will actually, for some time of the day, unplug and really think things through. And I found a lot of merit in philosophical arguments, philosophical questions. I spend a lot of time with Nietzsche, Aristotle, Plato, and thinking about what drove them to those questions. I don't need to agree with them, but if we enable people or empower people to ask the right questions, answers can be figured out. But if you don't ask the right questions, you're likely to get lost. One of my favorite quotes these days is by Lewis Carroll in Alice in Wonderland. Okay. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. And I think the mission of education is to help children, young professionals in the school of life figure out, where to go, how to navigate the life GPS, so to speak.
Love that. I mean, I'm just thinking about this life GPS now. I mean, if you had the chance to ask every single human being out there who's thinking about wanting to make a difference, to addressing, poverty, inequality, some of the biggest global challenges that we face today as humankind, what would you ask them to think about? Like, what is your question to them? Talking about the power of questions, do you have a question to ask every single human being out there thinking about wanting to make a difference? It's a hard one, but I don't know if you do have one.
I've thought about it. The one question that I'd ask everyone to think about is that what's your superpower and how can you share it? Everyone has a superpower. It's just that the education system and society sometimes helps us forget it because we force people into buckets and boxes. So if we nudge people to just look within, that if you look hard enough, you'll find it. If you find it, there is a market for it. There is a way. If you figure out a way to share it using the digital tools and technologies that we all live in abundance with, I think the world will be a slightly more kind, a slightly nicer place, and a slightly more equitable place as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. What I would say is that clearly in the now years that I've known you, you have a superpower. And that superpower is, well, you have multiple. So I've mentioned a couple. I mean, one of the superpowers is the fact that you can bring people together from around the world. I mean, we met digitally.
Yes.
And you just made me feel like I was welcome. And I don't know how you did it, but you did it, and I felt welcome to Network Capital and the community, and you gave me an opportunity to speak to communities. I think like that should be recognized. But also you have a superpower in terms of being able to articulate some of what are very complex ideas into a way which is understandable, but also actionable. And so I thank you for sharing some of your insights today, and I'm sure our listeners will be very happy, and I'm sure they will be learning a lot and getting a lot of value from the books, and books, I'm sure, because you'll be published in the future, and the articles you write, and the community you keep on building. So thank you for that. And look forward to our future interview again in the years to come. So thanks for coming.
It means a lot to me. I admire, and I really look forward to the podcast that you're building. I believe this is the passion economy, and welcome to it. I know you've already been a part of it, but it'll be fun. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much to all of you who have become monthly supporters of the School of Social Justice. Your monthly contributions make a huge difference and allow us to deliver content which is educational and teaches people how to make a difference. If you want to become a patron as well, it's really simple. All you've got to do is go to the schoolofsocialjustice.com website, then click supporters, and choose how much you want to contribute, whether it be £20 a month, a £5 a month, or a £10 a month. Let's go with a £10 a month. It's really simple. Put in your details, put in your card number, click pay now, and you become a supporter. Whilst £5 a month is not much individually, it makes a huge difference collectively. And if we get 2,000 patrons, we can independently deliver content to you every single week to help ensure that we fulfill this mission of training the next generation of Martin Luther Kings. Thank you so much to all of you who've become patrons so far. You've made a huge difference and allowed us to continue with our work. And if you do become a patron, thank you so much. Your support means a lot. Take care. Bye.